Fire energy has begun to take over his body as he continues to try to control it. The unicorn's spirit is strong. It's over. Was it something Yo Woon never could have handled from the beginning? Also the nano supercomputer, even with the high recovery speed. I can't keep up. The demon sect leader has now lost consciousness. Yo Woon thought, is it over for me, and tried to pull his hand away from the energy core. The current situation is the same partly because he used all his internal strength to fight against the main sword master and Ran Ying before knowing that she was also a demon of the holy religion. Just like that, Yo Woon lost all consciousness and fell into a deep sleep like taking my soul somewhere. Just like the first time. At that time the sound of water pressure was heard around me. Yo Woon closed his eyes, relaxing his body in the lava lake. Here there is heavenly demon energy that can also be called Dan Deen, where the consciousness of black energy is occupying. The earth dragon also refused to stay still like what its owner did outside. Thinking that the black gas are commonly known as the heavenly devil energy wanted to share the Dantian but did not. The heavenly demon energy wanted to swallow the fire energy, so Yo Woon worked so hard outside that he almost died. Now he can't do it, so he's moving to avoid the intense heat. The details just completed made the leader of the heavenly demon god sect realize a small path. The abdomen and chest are important parts for any human being. At that moment the heavenly demon chi ran up to the Dantian. Fire energy happily occupies the lower Dan Deen position, while the ice energy and fire of the unicorn begin to create balance with each other in the Dantian. If everything goes well, then it is possible that the leader can achieve harmony of the three distinct auras. There is one person who has witnessed the whole in this scene. She is Ran Ying and is also helpless and doesn't know what to do but call out her name. The demon lord continuously. The woman tries to jump to the top of the conflict but is knocked back. Is a fire user. The gas has been around for hundreds of years, but for some reason it now opposes her. Ran Ying has been protecting the unicorn's fire in the underground hall for nearly 200 years. She was surprised and looked up with her mouth open. That thing that had never moved was disappearing right before my eyes. Following the orders of the previous emperors, she tried to reach the core from the center inside the giant fire but never succeeded. Seeing the leader at the central core, she immediately called out, "Demon Lord." Body Yo Woon's body had ice. So Ran Ying believed that his leader would be able to do it. So the best way was just to stay still and wait for the results. Hyo Bong, who had just recovered, also ran to ask about the situation. How long was it? A long time has passed and finally there have been some changes. The originally ferocious fire is now gradually calming down. When she looked back, she saw Yo Woon with his eyes closed in the middle of the floating lake. Even more surprising were the black lights. The fire moved like a tornado around, causing Yo Woon to open his eyes and feel life again. The enhanced energy made by concentrating the inner energies form. Using chi sword control by connecting the formless innate core energy. Yo Woon is in the middle heart of contradiction, but he still closed his eyes and thought. I had thought that I had reached the peak of martial arts after reaching the mystical realm. But I had just reached the maximum capacity of what my lower energy cord could take. The answer was in the central energy core. The heavenly demonic chi had opened up the central energy cord in the midst of danger. In that moment of enlightenment, I came to realize as if by instinct. Yo Woon can feel the overflowing power within the silence. And asked myself, should I test it out? On the white dragon sword black frost had begun to form while releasing a freezing cold. While the heavenly demon sword was a fiercely burning black fire. Also Ran Ying and Hyo Bong, who watched, could not hide their amazement. The simultaneous release of three types of energy was a majestic display of extraordinary power. The Kirin blood where the black frost is evaporating, whereas the Kirin blood by the dark flames is only boiling. Ran Ying thought, this is what just the remaining energy in the weapon can do. Is this power from having absorbed the Kirin's innate core? With the right opportunity, miracles, even though rare miracles, can really happen. Even Yo Woon doesn't understand what happened inside his body, so he wanted to verify, so he ordered his subordinates. Move to the side. Ba kind internal energy is infinite. Each type has different properties. Ran Ying and Hyo Bong received orders from the leader to go somewhere else. Each of them turned their backs and ran far away. Black mist and black fire appeared. At the place where the two swords fell, the male lead let go of both the white dragon sword and the heavenly demon sword, causing Ran Yung to suddenly think, what is he trying to do? He doesn't even have a weapon in hand. On the side on the left where the white dragon sword fell, ice air began to spread into the lake, and on the other side, where the heavenly devil sword fell, the water began to boil and release a large amount of steam. Hyo Bong also sensed his leader. There was a drastic change in strength. In Yo Woon's hands, the black ice also spread out and took the shape of a blade like a black fire. The sword could not be seen, only the frost could be seen surrounding it. They couldn't see anything, but it looked like Yo Woon was holding a sword in his hand. Hyo Bong was thrown away and didn't know what was going on. Hyo Bong thought to himself, this kind of heat would have been unbearable had I not already obtained the flame chi. Hyo Bong used his hands to shield his face. Sweating and silently asked, just what is happening? Hyo Bong looked at his leader without any weapons. He was suddenly surprised and thought of someone. There is a legend that has been passed down generation among martial artists. The undefeated swordsman, Dugu Chiubai. In his last years, he did not carry a sword with him. Out of curiosity, one of his disciples asked for what reason. He answered with this, a sword is meaningful to me now. His disciples wondered, why do you say that? You need to have a sword in hand to be able to concentrate your chi to create enhanced sword aura. How can a swordsman without a sword do anything against opponents who use enhanced energy? Even if he is considered a disciple son of a legendary swordsman. But he took his master's words as a lazy trick and did not believe in the existence of such a thing. So his master demonstrated by holding up, raised his hand and said, I do have a sword. So the master decided to show him the sword he could create in a special way. Golden light ran along his arm and he continued to speak. I have surpassed chi materialization. A materialization of the formless innate core energy. Returning to reality. The ground was divided into two by purple light. People decided to call it the formless sword, because it was a sword created from pure energy. During Ran Yung's time in the sect, the leader at that time was indeed the best. However, she could not believe that the sect leader at that time could like the leader at the present time. So she explained to Hyo Bong that the 24th generation leader of the demon god religion, just a wave of a hand, and the entire place is destroyed, and weapons that he used was the legendary formless sword. Hyo Bong was surprised. His mouth opened wide. The formless sword. Then had the demon reached Lord the life and death realm? The surprised look on Hyo Bong's face was still in shock as he looked down at the ground. When the sword moved, its trajectory created a crack in the ground. Now the most worrying thing was happening. The same tear left by the previous sword was further deepened by the invisible sword. Ran Yung began to worry as the final floor was about to change. She looked around and realized that the pillars supporting the basement were melting. So it was obvious that the ceiling was collapsing. Hyo Bong looked at the cracking wall and thought, this is bad. Even a martial artist of the life and death realm wouldn't survive being buried this deep down. Before that, Yo Woon was afraid that the 6 martial arts sword would take the blood of the unicorn first. So he went down in his own way. Ran Yung looked at that crack and thought, the pathway the demon lord had created when coming here. Her immediately turned to remind Hyo Bong, the place is coming down. We need to get out of here with the demon lord right now. Through the hole in the ceiling. But he thought differently when his eyes looked elsewhere. Because now even if you want to go, you can't because it's too late. The earth and rocks are collapsing because there is no support left to withstand the weight. You can see hundreds of tons of earth and rocks are trying to bury 3 people, the only one still alive from the heavenly devil sect. Ran Yung could only look at Hyo Bong. No matter what, they both had to sacrifice to let the leader live. Sounds very possible but impossible because of them. They don't have the strength to face those thousands of pounds of weight. Floating in the center, Yo Woon simply raised his hand like a god. Some invisible pressure, immediately impacting the rock and soil, and slow down the Earth's natural gravity, so as not to allow harm to his subordinates. Since its construction, the engineers have had to work hard to calculate, and they also calculated that if an intruder just made an impact, everything would turn to dust. However, now, the leader of the heavenly demon god sect is surpassing under the influence of those genius minds. The ice energy in Yo Woon's body had reached the pinnacle of familiarity. The heavy layer of rock above was completely frozen. Ren Yung understood her mind. I can't accept it yet. Impossible. This isn't something a human being should be capable of doing. Did he? Three different energies within him strike a balance. Yo Woon successfully balanced the three types of energy, and at this time Hyo Bong was also exhausted. The Demon Lord. The molten red scales have now been destroyed. Because the unicorn aura has truly been mastered by him. It can be said. It is a tough armor, just like the palace maids before that person once fought outside the mausoleum of the emperors of Dai Min. When reaching the life and death realm, the subject had to experience the boundary between life and death. In his nearly 200-year life, Ren Yung couldn't believe his eyes. I've met millions of martial artists until now. Ren Yung continued to think. Basically, normal martial artists only possess one or at most two. But I've never met anyone with three innate core energies. Can be called the current leader Thien Ma, holding with him the negative pole, the positive pole, and even the heavenly demon energy. Bok Long Pain, or maybe the heavenly demon sword, but I'm not sure. I just know it's an object that's difficult to shape. Both those two deadly things are floating around Yo Woon. Looks like he's trying to use the invisible sword again right now. Tears welled up in the corners of Ren Young's eyes because she felt very proud to be present in the legendary moment that would be recorded in the history of martial arts. Yo Woon successfully absorbed Qilin's blood, or more precisely, the core, the energy of ancient beasts. Yo Woon thought to himself. So this is what it feels like. I can only make two formless weapons at once because it consumes so much true energy. But I should be able to use Chi sword control in this state too. Also, the second most important thing is that his younger brother Hyo Bong is safe but is no longer useless. And I need to get out of here before daybreak. So I'll test these skills out later. Think about doing. So the male lead also gently landed. The deification of the Great Protector's magic was truly classy when Yo Woon moved underwater like a god. Seeing his leader, Ren Yung and Hyo Bong happily bowed. Congratulations, Demon Lord. Congratulations on ascending to the life and death realm. Currently in the Central Plains, very few martial artists can reach it, and of course Yo Woon is among them and can also be called a wise powerhouse. Ren Yung thought with some emotion. The life and death realm. The Demon Lord I had served was the era's most powerful martial artist. But he's a lot stronger, and just what kind of person is he? About 210 years ago, with the death of the last emperor, Zhang Yuan was divided into 10 small nations. That was an inevitable result that had been foretold, and there was no one at that time who could not imagine what would happen later. In the next 10 decades sank deep into a period of chaos and chaos. The city lord and the mandarins who once occupied it, the important strongholds of the Central Plains, were proclaimed kings one after another, and relations between the countries quickly became distant. That could never satisfy their bottomless greed. So the country obviously sank to the path of destruction. Ren Yung reports. For the 10 years during which the empire was divided into 10, there were endless bloodbaths in Zhongyuan, and the lands became barren. The farmers were forced into becoming soldiers, causing a shortage in food. Zhongyuan entered a dark era. Despite efforts to avoid conflict between each other, the royal family and the martial arts, it is impossible not to feel affected by the upheavals that occurred. And then a hero arose. Chu Won-soon, a king of one of the nations, had a son named Chu Won-myung. Unlike Chu Won-soon, who had inherited the governor title of Tong County through the generations, Chu Won-myung was an undefeated general who waged war against the savages of the north. Returning to his country after the destruction of the strong, he lost interest in worldly affairs and wandered to become friends with the leader of the demon god religion at that time. He was someone that even Cheon Ingyang, the cult leader of the heavenly demon divine cult at the time, invited to the 10,000 Great Mountains in order to build a relationship. He was acknowledged by many great people. Yo Woon asked, Chu Won-myung, that's the name of the founding emperor? Ren Yung replied, that's Rig. He was considered a hero by the people for having protected his nation from the barbarians of the north. Even the people of the Zhonghu regarded this man. Ren Yung continued speaking. He had a great sense of loyalty. After the fall of the empire, he quit his government post and wandered around Zhongyuan without an interest anything. Befriending heroes. However, the ones to suffer from the lack of this presence during the 10 years were the citizens. Zhang Yuan was weak, and the barbarians of the north and west continued to invade. The streets endlessly flowed with the blood of the innocent. In the end, Xu Wenmyung inherits his father's position after his death and promises an uprising. Even he, a great general of many experiences, could not unite the 10 nation with just the forces of his one nation while also defeating the outside forces. He knew too well that it would take a long time to grow his army. So he turned to the people of the Jianghu for help, with whom he had befriended over the span of 10 years. The Heaven's Master asked me and several heroes to stop the bloodbath of the innocent citizens. Please lend me a hand so that I may be able to save the people from the greedy lords and thieves. Heroes and a great cause. Xu Wenmyung, who had luck with time as well the skills necessary, was able to bring down the surrounding nations and drive out the enemies quickly with the help of the Jianghu. And 10 years later, after having united the 10 nations, it was named the Great Ming Empire. With the stabilization of the empire, the heroes who had helped the great cause were awarded land and a government position. The heavenly demon divine cult and the orthodox faction had helped with the establishment of the empire. But with the stabilization of the nation, they became an overwhelming presence to the founding emperor as well as the government officials. Although it was clear that they were a threat as just one expert martial artist could take on dozens of soldiers of the empire. Since they had helped the unification of Zhang Yuan, they could not ignore them. The founding emperor had no choice but to write a mutual non-aggression treaty in return for giving them what they wanted. The Murim alliance leader at the time requested that the Ming Empire choose their official religion to be Taoism in order to continue their relationship with the empire despite the non-aggression treaty. Ran Yung continued to say, "That's where the problem began." The demon lord at the time also wanted to request that the Ming Empire's official religion be that of the heavenly demon divine cult. But the founding emperor had already accepted the Murim alliance leader's request. This story is so famous that even juniors like Hyo Bong can know it after hearing it from their ancestors. There are talks that it was done on purpose even though the Murim alliance and our cult had equal influence on the establishment of the empire. Ran Yung continued, "It's assumed that it was the doing of the government officials at the time. The demon lord of the time was displeased and made a bold request. There once existed a legend about the Central Plains when the divine beast appeared before the founding of the country. It was majestic, mischievous, and burned everywhere. At that time the great Sect master fought and succeeded in subduing the divine beast in a battle of 3 days and 3 nights. Together with hundreds of experts including elders and sect masters. After the death of the sect unicorn, the inextinguishable fire on its body was burning. That special event was considered an auspicious sign for the founding of the country. A giant tomb was built at the place where the unicorn passed life and it was believed that it would be the place to build the capital. The great leader of the celestial demon sect requested the core of the unicorn and its blood from the emperor. Upon hearing the leader's excessive demands, the officials of the Dai Min and the martial arts members became extremely angry. Of course, they refused to come forward. Yo Woon also exclaimed, "I assume he was rejected, of course." Ran Yung replied, "That's true. The Mandarins consider this a good point for the country, but the Martial Arts Alliance believes that the demon religion is expanding its power. The Martial Arts Alliance will do anything what can be done to stop the increase in power of the demon cult, and the royal palace considers unicorn blood as a treasure. They will never give it up." The demon cult leader said at that time, "I risked my cult's people and my life to bring down that Kirin. I'm not asking for the corpse of the Kirin. I just want its essence and blood. Who are you to tell me no?" The bureaucrats and the Murim alliance left the decision to the founding emperor since Cheon Ingyung's request was justified and the founding emperor, aware that he had to appease the demon lord, accepted his request in the end. Ran Yung said, although there was a condition that he had to take it himself. Hyo Bong felt bitter. "Man, that's petty." Yo Woon thanked, but there was no way to take the boiling blood. So the demon lord made a different request instead. Ran Yung continued. He asked that 12 expert martial artists of the demonic cult be allowed to protect this underground space until the blood has cooled down enough for the taking. Hyo Bong's eyes opened wide and said, "Then you've been here all along." Ran Yung came with 11 other people, and all of them were high-ranking members and had important positions in the demon god cult. The conditions were that the cult's martial artists resided here. We also had to protect the imperial palace and swear our loyalty to them. Saying that, she went inside and took out 12 jade tablets as proof. Demonic Dragon Palm Sect Outer Hall Master Moon Ran Yung. After leaving the cult to protect the blood unicorn, she lived in the palace for 190 years. Hyo Bong opened her mouth in surprise and asked, "What demonic Dragon Palm Sect? Then you must be Moon Gyu's great-grandmother." "No. Great-grandmother." Hyo Bong's words suddenly caught Yo Woon's attention. "Elder Moon and Moon Gyu will be very shocked. There are only 11 jade cards left and the others are not here." The current sect leader also understands. They returned to the holy fire. At that time, according to the orders of the great sect leader, we researched the core of the unicorn and found a way to take away its blood. Because the royal palace is also important. Interested in unicorns, so the two joined forces and conducted research. But no results or benefits were found. There were people who drank blood but died because they couldn't control the fire energy. More details that the victims were all men with high yang energy. Ran Yung continued, "We at that time said that fire energy was too dangerous for a body. Women could endure it, and they took a small amount of blood tested, resulting in me becoming the only survivor." Yo Woon asked, "Because you were the only person who could protect this place?" Her voice trembled as she talked about that time and took a deep breath. Before answering. "That's right. They wanted me to stay alive," she said. "It was a very lonely time. My inner energy developed and I reached the evolutionary realm. But I couldn't stop aging. I felt that death was near." It gave her an idea. "I took a gamble finally. Because men cannot withstand fire chi due to yang energy. Women's bodies also need to experiment. And surprisingly, I was really successful. I was able to successfully absorb the flame chi, and I even regained youth from metamorphosis." Yo Woon wondered. "Then the imperial palace must have tried to test it on women." Ran Yung replied, "Yes, but I lied to them." She continued talking. "I said that even women would react to the flammer chi if they have inner energy. So that it could lead to death anyway. The imperial palace gave up on testing on martial artists since they had already killed so many. But since there were thousands of maids in the palace who have not learned martial arts and therefore had no inner energy, they trained them to become the warriors of the imperial palace guardians. I wanted to go back to the 10,000 great mountains everyone before my death to tell." At this moment, Yo Woon rubbed his chin and thought, "I guess I don't need to tell her." Suddenly Ran Yung knelt down and said, "But I was the only one remaining who could protect the Kirin's blood and essence. I also had to make sure that my lie would not be found out by the imperial palace." Bong Ran Yung cried and said, "But since I have now met you, Demon Lord, I have no more regrets even if I were to die now." Seeing her cry made Yo Woon feel uncomfortable. With that level, Ran Yung could have given up everything to run away from the palace and live the rest of her life. But she still chose the demon god religion. The leader, the 24th generation, is known as the Tyrant King but is also very satisfied with his subordinates who have absolute loyalty. What Ran Yung did made an impression on him, and just a few seconds later it was on the male lead's wrist has begun to form the heavenly demon sword. Ran Yung cannot hide her superiority. At first she could not recognize it because it was different from the heavenly demon sword she knew, but this is the heavenly demon's treasure passed it down. While still in shock and amazement, Yo Woon solemnly praised her loyalty. The 24th sect leader of the celestial demon sect, and a descendant of the great sect leader, the celestial demon praised, who is a warrior who has faithfully fulfilled orders all these years. Unable to hold back anymore, Ran Yung burst into tears. She just prayed every night to return to the 100,000 great mountains one last time. However, the words of gratitude by Yo Woon has washed away the sadness of the past 200 years. But that is not the end. And in return for your miraculous efforts, I bestow on you the position of Great Elder. Ran Yung was moved and covered her face, crying and thinking, "I didn't even wish for acknowledgement like this. I just wanted to be able to see the Demon Lord before my death." She sacrificed like that. Not only is her martial power equal to, even greater than that of the Lord, the Demon Lord's sword is too worthy. Ran Yung slammed his head on the ground. thanking Yo Woon's reward. In the eyes of his boss Hyo Bong, it was very classy. It's already amazing that the demon lord has reached the life and death realm. But for someone as powerful as her to enter the cult in addition to the unrivaled sword. The demon lord is quickly increasing the forces of the cult after ending the war with the sect and clans. Demon Lord, Yo Woon. It's as if he attracts all expert martial artists like a magnet. After that excitement, Yo Woon stood seriously. Ran Jiang saw his sect leader's serious face and was a bit surprised and worried. He said, "Normally I would take you back to the sect immediately. But there is still work to do. I will finish it and then I will come to pick you up. Until then, can you protect this place?" "Great Elder." Ran Yun replied with a serious voice. "Why do you say that? Please just give orders and I will do anything." She has spent 200 years underground in the dark underground of the palace. Now waiting a little longer won't have much effect. Yo Woon was happy and replied to her, "Alright, then there is something you can do." And then the leader also told his subordinates to prepare a response to those bastards. Ran Young's eyes were cried and she was surprised at what the cult leader said. When morning came, chaos reigned in the Eastern Depot guest hall. The bodies of the members of the Eastern Depot and the maids who were supposed to be the palace guards were found in the warehouse. They were found early in the morning. And the bad news made everyone in the palace sad. How horrible. A fight like this broke out and no one in the surrounding area managed to notice. Embroidered uniform guard 1000 household. Lee Ahm thought to himself. The palace did not discover the incident sooner because the guards who were supposed to be on duty were eliminated. He frowned in frustration. A massacre like so happened here and no one knows anything about it. What he was witnessing was so strange. It was hard to believe. Then he shouted at his subordinates. "Why are you all standing there so quickly? Clean up to death." Just after giving the order, the door of the main hall opened with a bang and unwanted guests appeared. Officials in military uniforms rushed into the yard. It was not difficult when Lee Ahm did not know they were the eunuchs and he wondered. Why are they here? There was a person walking into the place where Lee Ahm was standing. That person was a wandering elder. As he walked he said, "I did smell blood before stepping foot in here." His voice is like a chicken with hair stuck in his hair. And he's very stylish, stroking his beard as he speaks. But it's worse than I expected. Many people must have died. Lee Ahm heard him say that and immediately thought, "He's trying to get on my nerves. What brings you here?" He stood with his back to Lee Ahm and said, "I'm sure you're well aware why I'm here." Lee Ahm's face darkened, resigned to his coordination. "From this time forward, our factory will investigate the incident here." When Lee Ahm heard it, he couldn't believe his ears and angrily asked again, "What are you talking about?" "Murder that's been committed inside the imperial palace is supposed to be evaluated by the embroidered." He continued, "Moreover, the only job that members of the Eastern Depot were assigned to spy on people who could cause an uprising in Daimen. Not here right now." Lee Ahm grimaced and continued, "The Eastern Depot may be in charge of the Eastern Hall. But we have the investigative authority when it comes to crimes. Dozens of maids and other people of the palace were killed. Let's not fight over territory right now." He lightly licked his red lipstick in response. "Mr. Thien protects the cam. Why our bodyguards seem to be mistaken about something. Because in this case the bodyguard is also a criminal involved." Lee Ahm immediately panicked and angry when he heard it. What nonsense is this eunuch talking about? Not caring about Lee Ahm's confusion, the elder of the Eastern factory gave orders to his subordinates. Arrest all of the embroidered uniform guards for bringing in spies to the imperial palace. After giving the order, the eunuchs arrested the group. Lee Ahm's men used ropes that had been prepared in advance. Those words made Lee Ahm's stomach boil with anger. What a bastard who clearly accepted the job but now he is a criminal. Lee Ahm shouted loudly. "Arrested? What the hell do you think you are doing, and who dares to frame the embroidered uniform guards of such a horrendous crime?" At the crime scene, these guards are called rebels. Despite even though this was their first time arriving at the scene. A mere embroidered uniform guard speaking against an imperial order from the Soul King. Upon hearing his words, Lee Ahm could not hide his confusion. At the same time at Prince Chen Ju Taegeum's palace, Sea of Stars Palace. More than 200 eunuchs from the East factory surrounded the entire palace. The entrance to the mansion was carefully blocked so that no one could escape. A young man with splendid white armor stood proudly. "The main gate is Seoul King Ju Ti-yoon," he asked. "The preparations are complete, right?" Next to him an old eunuch, Lim Cheon-hwa, adorned with colorful jewelry, in a blue robe, he answered, "Yes, Your Imperial Highness. They should have begun investment of the imperial tomb by now along with the people from the Murim alliance." In the back added a middle-aged guy in the uniform of a military officer. As assistant for Ju Ti-yoon. "Don't worry, Your Highness. I have received a notification that everything has been arranged. Just wait until now and everything will be okay." His real identity is a master from extremely sword 6 martial arts. If it succeeds, Ju Ti-yoon promises to support that wretched sect. Besides the blood sect master and other subordinates who escaped at the hands of the evil cult leader. He is the only one who did not appear showed up the night before because he had been by the crown prince's side all this time. When the order had just left Ju Ti-yoon's mouth, Lim Cheon-hwa immediately replied, "Yes, Your Imperial Highness. Holy orders come. Prince Chen, get out palace to receive orders." The eunuch's voice was so loud that all the eunuchs and soldiers in and around the palace could hear it. As soon as Lim Cheon-hwa shouted twice, the palace door opened, came out, and Prince Chen appeared with General Chan Nam. Prince Chen bowed his head in a polite but not very happy greeting. "Hello, Imperial brother. What brings you here?" "My brother, Your Imperial Highness. In the royal palace, Ju Ti-yoon has a higher position." However, after greeting, the crown prince immediately said with a voice full of dissatisfaction, "I haven't seen you for a long time. I haven't seen you for a long time. But why do we the eunuch and Lim Cheon-hwa borrowed from my palace like this?" Lim Cheon-hwa saw this and began to speak on his behalf. "A big problem happened in the palace last night. A group of rebels invaded and killed dozens of court maids and guards at the factory." Prince Chen clearly heard that they were really shocked by Lim Cheon-hwa's words. "Not yet, Prince. We received news that the culprits have stolen the founding emperor's treasure." Prince Chen's eyebrows raised at those words. "Does it mean I am involved in this incident or what? Please don't." There was anger. It seemed like the rebels came from the demon god Sect. They secretly came to hide during the festival and infiltrated the royal palace. The Eastern Factory warriors discovered it last night, so tried to stop them but sadly failed. "Did they tell you that I brought them here? Are you trying to say that I, a prince, brought them here?" Expecting a reaction like so, Lim Cheon-hwa's lips curled into a mischievous smile. "That's what I don't know. Because the king has requested the truth behind this incident be revealed and the criminals caught. If we continue, the continuing investigation of the truth will soon be over." To put it bluntly, everyone knows that the old eunuch wanted to use that excuse to take Prince Chen to prison for interrogation. Prince Chen was about to express his displeasure. Then Crown Prince Ju Ti-yoon interrupted him by releasing threatening energy. "This arrogant guy has caused chaos in the royal family and is still talking loudly. If you are involved in this matter, please obediently die." Gone. The last drop of water. The last mutual respect between the two princes had faded. Prince Chen truly knew the demon cult was not a few absent-minded people leaving traces. There was no evidence. "If you want to arrest me, that's a crime," Ju Ti-yoon said. "You think that the crown prince will have to go through so much to be able to control you? Now it's not just the workshop. Even the members of the gang, medical guards, and the martial artists of the martial arts are also confirming that." Prince Chen is still shouting along. If not with his own eyes. Don't even dream of raising his hands to be tied. Without an official document with a jade stamp on it, Prince Chen would not have to comply. So Lim Cheon-hwa proposed to bring evidence to smash Prince Chen's face. If he directly took him to death and showed him what the demon cult had done, you will have no choice but to listen to them. Crown Prince Ju Ti-yoon planned everything from the beginning. This guy has never considered his younger brother to be his equal. He expected that one day he would see Prince Chen kneeling with his head touching the ground in front of him. And the scene would change to the Imperial Palace within the Imperial Palace Guardians Hall. Through the hidden passage and the altar, Prince Chen and Ju Ti-yoon are on their way to confirm the evidence. Behind them is the director Lim of the Eastern Workshop. a middle-aged martial arts master from the Extreme Sword 6 martial arts and the eunuchs of the Eastern Factory. Accompanied by 4 bodyguards and finally General Nam. I will ensure that you face your doom. Crown Prince Ju Ti-yoon could not hide the happiness that filled his features. Face. Noisy sounds rang out from the end of the passage. Many bodies lined up on the first floor of the underground passage. With torches lighting up the room, the whole group arrived at the Central Hall Imperial Palace Guardians Hall. Dozens of corpses were being examined by envoys of martial arts and palace officials. When they saw the Crown Prince, they all bowed to greet them. When the 2 princes appeared, they stopped working, asking questions. The autopsy was just completed a short while ago, so everyone wanted to rest for a while. Crown Prince Ju Ti-yoon raised his hand when looking closely and turned towards Hang Tu-chen, who seemed to be asking to follow me. What? Even the middle-aged guy from the Extreme Sword 6 martial arts was satisfied. If all the guardians inside the underground were destroyed by the demon religion, then the emperor would definitely be very angry. Those henchmen and Bloodmaster must have worked hard to give us this priceless opportunity. If the martial arts elders testify, then the reports will be considered reliable, of course. The god-demon religion, even I won't know why they have been persecuted. In the past few years, the 6 martial arts have planned for this. Only with a perfect plan will they receive the support of the next emperor follow. Take the blood of the unicorn. And most importantly, defeat the archenemy, the demon god religion. He is immersed in his fantasies. We will finally see the fruits of years of our efforts. Thai Crown Prince Ju Ti-yoon didn't know what he heard or saw but shouted loudly. What did they say to him to make Crown Prince Ju Ti-yoon scream so loudly? There are spies from the demon sect in the appraisal board. Quickly find them, and brought to this king. The reason was soon revealed. The traces on the corpses belonged to the pole sword martial arts. It couldn't be like that. When hearing those vague words, the eyes of the pole hound Dao martial arts began to show fear. He wondered what the hell was going on here. Noisy sounds rang out from the end of the passage. Many bodies lined up on the first floor of the underground passage, with torches lighting the room. You should divide according to the location of the wound left on the corpse and put down. Chung Su became the ambassador of 17 leaders from the political faction. He was strong enough, and was famous for his upright character, and that's why this person was invited to do an autopsy. Believing in the words of the sect master's swordsman is irrelevant but truly disgusting. The demonic cult has been known to be a force that always likes to make deals. And unlike other forces, they never have theft. Checking and concealing the traces of battle is not a difficult task. The elder shook his head, thinking that it was necessary to report the entire incident openly and honestly. About 100 eunuchs from the Eastern Factory were dispatched to move the scattered bodies. There were rumors about palace guardians protecting the palace, but until now no one had seen them, including the officials. The palace maid, the factory governor, looked curiously at the corpse. It was a body full of scars. He knew nothing about the magic of the demon religion, so he just assumed that what he saw were cuts left by the demon religion. Again, he was about to go to the elder when he heard the eunuch standing guard at the underground entrance loudly. It turned out to be the Holy King and His Highness the King coming together. The eunuch's face turned pale. He knew that Crown Prince Ju Ti-yoon will arrive at any moment, but this is faster than expected. But before he could speak, the Crown Prince's screams rang out, repeating over and over again, "Too unreasonable. The investigation team must have been an insider of the demon religion. Quickly hunt down that guy and bring him to trial. History in front of me." The elder reported that to the Crown Prince. Not long after they learned the reason behind that scream was that all the injuries were caused by the 6 martial arts extreme swords. And then you guys seen the scene from the previous episode. The sect master's face turned pale and began to get scared. The eyes of the eunuch and the factory foreman widened. General Manager Lim's face turned pale when he heard that. And trying to ask, like this, if it's the martial arts of extreme Dao, then isn't it your sect? The Dao Kong sect master has said with certainty that everything is ready to be completed. If that's true, then the sword marks on the victim's body will be considered the martial arts of the demon religion. Everything kept coming like a storm, and someone came running in an extremely urgent, repentant manner. Although Ju Tae-yoon and the medical guard did not know anything about the middle-aged man's identity. But General Manager Lim knew about that guy. He had to immediately eliminate all possible variables to save yourself. However, the eunuch was too confused by other thoughts and did not even listen to the order. Before the words were finished, the elder's voice rang out very loud and clear. That was not all also. Your Highness, there were also those bodies on the bodies. There were also many traces of something completely different. The general manager's angry red eyes became more shocked when he learned that it was exactly wavy flexible sword art. It sounds like a bit of a headache because the swords are gone and even the eunuchs are panicking, so let's see what the swords are. It's a sword technique reserved for eunuchs created by a master and former general manager of the East Factory. As the power of the East Factory increased, that sword art became more and more popular. The person who understood the situation well, the old man surnamed Lim, began to get impatient and ignored the court's rules. His life was hanging on a fragile thread. He thought he needed to explain what the martial arts elder had just said. The general manager knelt before Ju Tae-yoon. He exclaimed with a voice full of despair, "Your Highness, this can't be possible. If the corpses inside the royal palace have traces of swords, then it means that the eunuchs of the Eastern Factory were also involved in the rebellion. Please investigate again, because how can we do it? I have checked about 20 of those bodies. It is definitely wavy flexible sword art. These traces were left by your people. I have also seen this sword art at the ceremony. Before the sword dance ceremony. How could someone with such a great reputation as an elder not realize that?" After eating and drinking well at the banquet, everyone gathered together so they took turns in the East Workshop, the West Workshop and the sword. The medical guard demonstrated sword skills. The general was afraid to recall that because the examiner was an expert in the righteous path. It was never easy to forget the swordsmanship that he had seen. Ju Tae-yoon's flowing eyes could see his quietly smiling face, of Prince Chen. He only knew how to get angry, then dodge and prepare to unleash his rage on the head of the half-male, half-female old man of the East Factory. Fortunately, Prince Chen pretended to be blind and demanded to follow him to see the evidence. Let it be. If this prince had resisted, he would probably have been locked up in heaven awaiting trial. The one who set the trap was the one who was trapped. Ju Tae-yoon wondered what step he had gone wrong. With the elder's testimony, the situation was now against Crown Prince Ju Tae-yoon, not Prince Chen. Could it be that it was the plan he had drawn up to catch us too? The perfect calculation to destroy the emperor's trust in his brother had turned into a knife that cut his neck. Ju Tae-yoon's face pale. If father knows about this, the trust he has built up so far will immediately go down the drain. It's still a long time until the coronation festival. That will be the day the next heir to the throne will appointed. The person who carried out this plot with the aim of usurping the throne. Even though he was only the son of a concubine, Crown Prince Ju Tae-yoon began to frantically scream and panic. The fact that he thought everything was going against him. It's completely natural that he was set up by his younger brother. Even if it was a conspiracy. If he couldn't resolve the situation immediately, things would only get worse. At that moment, the enchanting voice of a woman rang out. Everyone present inside the hall turned their eyes towards the direction of the voice. A woman wearing red armor with a special design appeared and greeted Crown Prince Ju Tae-yoon. His seductive and mysterious appearance from head to toe, making the eunuchs and martial arts elders stunned like idiots. Not only a mysterious person but also radiating inner strength from her was beyond everyone's imagination. Normally anyone would be fascinated by her beautiful beauty, but Ju Tae-yoon, who was pushed into a corner, scolded, "Who are you to dare to appear in front of the king?" After those words, Ran Yung showed them an order that had been given by the royal palace. Then gently said, "I am your majesty, the person in charge of the palace guarding the palace. Your highness, one of the palace guardians, still alive, according to what I know." General Manager Lim realized that 200 years ago there was a person, but how could he live until now? It's hard to believe, because Ju Tae-yoon took the command that she was holding to check. Sure enough, on the token there was a line saying that Ran Yung was the king's protector and had been given to him by the king himself. which meant that Ran Yung was truly the best. The royal majesty of the royal palace guarded the palace, while Crown Prince Ju Tae-yoon was still in shock. General Manager Lim seemed almost happy, so he transmitted the voice to Ju Tae-yoon. The old man's eyes shined as if blessed by God. If this woman is the only survivor among the guardians, then we can blame all the blame on the 6 martial arts sword. Ju Tae-yoon finally understood what the general manager meant. If so, close the factory and I can escape the danger. Indeed, God has not destroyed my way of life. Thinking that he was safe, Ju Tae-yoon calmed down and asked Ran Yung in a stern voice, "What do you want to say? Can you tell me about this incident?" To that question, she bowed her head to the ground and began to cry. "The palace treasure that I was ordered to the guard was stolen by the eunuchs. Please punish me for not fulfilling my duty." Both Ju Tae-yoon and General Manager Lim were shocked to the core. What the hell is this beautiful woman talking about? So, those words were like a dagger stabbing straight into the dying patient. Prince Chen shouted in joy. "Are you saying that the eunuchs of the Eastern Factory also aimed at the Emperor's treasure? Right?" He raised his voice just loud enough for everyone to hear. All eyes turned towards the eunuchs with suspicion. Because if true, the eunuchs of the East Factory had participated in the rebellion. If this continued, the East Factory would be accused of treason. General Manager Lim has read the worst possible situation. And when someone transmits the sound, Manager Lim, we have no other choice. We need to kill everyone in this place to block the information. Peach Kong, the sect master, has realized how bad the situation has become. And the only way to save it now is to kill everyone here. Except for the Kong Tong sect master and southern military officer. Plus the old man if you don't read the position. Ran Yung is only at the mystical level. So with the number of hundreds of eunuchs, if you risk your life, it will probably be overwhelming. General Manager Lim's eyes trembled after analyzing the proposal of the master of the extreme sword. Their situation at the moment was hanging by a thread. He immediately shouted orders to his subordinates. The crown prince had fallen for the trick. Quickly eliminate all the rebels and protect his highness. Following the command of the general, the eunuchs drew their swords one after another without knowing what to do. Elder Chung Su and the others in the sect could not hide their shock. "You bastard. Do those people want to kill people and kill everyone?" His heart was originally hesitant because this place was the sacred sanctuary of the royal palace. But the eunuchs were really angry and immediately changed their stance, all quickly protecting His Royal Highness the Holy King from those rebels. If Prince Chen was murdered underground, if he didn't move, he would be given the humiliating name of a rebel. Fortunately, there is still the southern military officer and all 3 of his subordinates. If you pay close attention, among the 3 people, hey, everyone is special because Hyo Bong's bald head is the most noticeable. A eunuch pulled out 2-meter-long swords and shouted, "What business can you expect to do with only those people?" Southern the military officer did not hold back because that bastard eunuch finally revealed his foxtail. When the situation happened as expected, the knife gate master decided to use all his strength. Him and the general manager of the factory planned to find the strongest person, Ran Yung, to deal with it first, but suddenly saw that his right arm was missing. Before he realized it, his right hand, trying to pull out the sword, fell to the ground, blood flowing profusely like a stream. The culprit who did the interesting thing was a person in discreet disguise, believed to be the master of the sword gate by the master of the knife gate. He acted like an owl. His face turned purple and he roared, "You scoundrel, what the hell are you doing?" The long-haired woman then answered. Surprisingly, that voice did not belong to a woman. "After being slashed like that, you're still talking too much. That low tone belongs to a man." The bloodthirsty voice of someone who wants to kill the sect master immediately. Go back to a few hours ago. Elected, the sky is still pitch black and the sun has not yet risen. At this time inside Ninjong Palaces, there is a middle-aged man standing in the courtyard in front of Ju Tae-yoon's palace. Chu Seong, Blade Club master, with an impatient expression. Patience, he thought to himself. It was too late. Had he already failed in stealing? Since the 6 sword martial arts officially appeared in the martial arts, it has been considered the 3rd force in the martial arts. This plan took them several years to prepare. The guardians inside the temple. Is the royal family strong? Have they failed to deal with them? For the plan to succeed, even the Blood Master, one of the top 6 masters, came along. Her failure meant the plan failed. The pitch-black sky looked like it had been turned into Melaleuca blue. And there was a sign of the approaching sunrise. The gate master didn't feel any presence, but a voice coming from behind made him startled and panicked. Chu Seong was quite surprised when he didn't feel it. The internal energy of this stranger, and he didn't understand when the other person was there. The only woman he knew that often could only be the Blood Master. And then when he saw the familiar sword. The Master Sword, only to harmonize the confused psychology. If you are the master of the Blood Sect, why do you have to cover your face? Questions began to be raised. That person said, "You don't need to worry." That was an arrogant voice of a woman. Then she deliberately showed him the burns on her body caused by the unicorn's fire. Who wouldn't recognize the Blood Sect Master's voice and tone even when hiding his face? That's right, if it was the enemy, I would have been stabbed to death a long time ago. Knife Gate Master decided not to consider the matter too carefully this topic, and hurriedly brought someone to meet Crown Prince Ju Tae-yoon. Just like that, the sect master of the 6 great masters of the extreme sword sect had been deceived without even realizing it. Perhaps he was in a hurry for his duty. It's just my sect's business. Back to reality. Chu Seong still believed just now that he was the Blood Sect Master. But why did he suddenly have such a sweet voice and now he's a man? Who would have guessed that it was the one hiding his face? Who was supposed to be the Sword Master's allies suddenly cut off an arm with just one unexpected blow? To be able to imitate another person's voice so perfectly is impossible. Yo Woon swung the knife and wanted to cut off his head to calm him down. Chu Seong's face became bitter and tried to block the attack. He's so confused that he couldn't think of anything else. Fortunately, he was able to react quickly by focusing his internal strength on the giant mace to defend himself. However, the sword he carried with him was made of iron. He couldn't stand it anymore. He was almost beheaded, if he hadn't raised his axe to resist the opponent's fierce attack. The axe shook after the impact and his body was even pushed backwards. The opponent only swung his sword as gently as a flying cloud. But that overwhelming power was amazing. That person's face was covered by a curtain, so the face and expression could not be clearly seen. But surely one thing's for sure. It doesn't seem like much force was put into the attack, and this guy is very strong. I need to take advantage of his strength. Chu Seong thought of using the speed and power of that sword to his advantage. While turning around, Chu Seong still used the extreme sword magic. His plan is to avoid that attack and then take the opportunity to attack the opponent. Thinking to himself, that masked person will not be able to resist, but no. Because life is not like a dream. Right when Chu Seong blocked the blow of the club, which had already cracked, now shattered into many pieces, and his body was thrown backwards with a force as if a pebble had been shot into a lake. His body only stopped after hitting the wall at the end of the hallway underground. Blood pouring from the corner of his mouth. All he had done was block a single blow. But he felt like he had been attacked by 5 swords of energy at once. If his body had to force it, it would cause his muscles to tear, even although I have put all of my inner chi into my maneuverability. To think he could deflect it that easily. Chu Seong realized the huge difference in power from just that one attack. In addition, the cutting attack his arm. Definitely not a surprise attack or luck. This guy is a real monster. Yo Woon blew away Chu Seong like he was nothing but scrap paper. For lost an arm, the weapon was also damaged and the situation seemed hopeless. Then a thought flashed. Chu Seong felt lucky, because he had recently learned the entire blood-reversing Great La Magic technique. Had not used it before, and he was very surprised that the internal force in his body had increased a lot. But suddenly the masked person suddenly appeared next to him and grabbed his head. At that moment a bright light started shining from his hand, transmitting extremely strong electric current. Chu Seong screamed in pain as the electric current ravaged his body. He had never experienced such pain. You're using a technique that you don't even know well about. The male lead spoke coldly. Chu Seong couldn't even finish a sentence properly. Yo Woon said, "Don't be too angry. Just present your level is just too bad. Meanwhile, the 100 eunuchs inside the underground hall are still continuously performing attacks. They look weak, but their swordsmanship is on a completely different level. Killing members of the royal family is taboo, and if anyone leaves here alive, they cannot predict what might happen. Southern military officer, who is said to be the Holy King's bodyguard, is having a hard time and fight with the master of the Eastern factory. If the governor doesn't stop this person, Ju Ti-yoon will become untouchable. Besides, if the Southern military officer and all the military guards also joined forces to protect the prince, things would be even more difficult. The amazing thing is that the 4 military guards did a very good job in blocking the attacks of eunuchs to other military officers. Southern military officer's duty is to protect the Holy King in all situations. If he dies, he is willing to accept it for the safety of Prince Chen. Initially, this person captured forced to deal with the eunuchs at the entrance of the underground level. But when Prince Chen seemed to face imminent death, he rushed forward in a rescue attempt only to be stopped by the foreman. Swords in hand, that name is so strange, so gentle that it's hard to predict each move, because he didn't pay attention to his superiors. The Southern military officer was injured and exposed to countless loopholes. His body ended up being fatally slashed dozens of times. In the meantime, you still have time to look around. I will make people regret not punching each other properly. On the other side, Prince Chen also felt that his subordinates were in danger. He did not know that today there were too many servants close to him trusted had to sacrifice their lives for him. And perhaps one of them also included the Southern military officer. When he was stabbed straight in the chest by the governor, ignoring the pain, the general grabbed the sword tightly, seemed to block the force of the stab, and hugged the eunuch's body tightly. Seeing that you can still resist, you must have avoided the weak point. Why don't you stay still and let me stab you? It will be gentler. He was quite confident because he thought that his martial strength was superior to that of an experienced general. In the marketplace, the main job of a eunuch is to serve the royal family. As for martial arts, let it go in time. When the sword was about to stab him, that guy calmly stopped with one hand and said, "Look at you struggling until the end like this is very frustrating. Isn't it?" In a death-defying position, the Southern military officer gritted his teeth and used all his strength. He shouted, ignoring the sharp thing in his chest, then used both hands to poke straight from under the chin all the way up to the opponent's important organ, the brain. This incident was also seen by General Manager Lim, and he thought, "That dumbass. Being distracted on the battlefield means death." But then when he turned to the master's sword, he also panicked and realized that he was lying in a corner. Many experts fell down. The number of eunuchs decreased significantly. Pulling out a poisonous gas from his father's body, General Manager Lim had another plan. Taking advantage of the chaos, this guy thought it was necessary to eliminate the Holy King to cover up today's rebellion. But no, one of the people disguised as a royal guard, Hyo Bong, promptly ran to stop him. Only having a bit of the Great Elder's power, Hyo Bong appeared very confident and said, "It's just a light attack. Is that all?" Black for Yo Woon's biological brother was a bit careless. So the eunuch with red eyes used a gesture and then passed by with the intention of strangling Prince Chen. As long as he can do this, no one will know anything. Even so, the position of power will remain as it was originally reserved for him. Then the threatening energy spread throughout the hall, causing his body to feel down. The force of the impact was so great that it caused the ground to crack. Raw. General Manager Lim's knee touched the ground as he tried to regain his balance but failed. Instead of normal energy, it was like an invisible energy but attacked physically and mentally with a blast of air. Scary. Even if he reached the extreme transformation state, it would be useless, and at this moment Yo Woon began to appear. A few heavy sounds rang out because the master of the demon god religion already knew who was the mastermind who needed to be destroyed.